So big, you brought up a key point. Those companies are regulating our government right now because they've got so much money.
And once they begin establishing themselves, and even though there's nothing in the Constitution whatsoever about monopolies, doesn't exist, but once they begin establishing themselves as monopolistic cartels and have figured out how to subvert the First Amendment in the manner that they have, we as libertarians might just have a way to not compromise, but maybe logically rationalize why we need to maybe join an effort to, in some manner, to change the situation that's going on right now. And it's easy enough for us just to escape and leave. We can shut our accounts down. We don't. There's no gun to our head that says we have to be on Facebook. But unfortunately, as a musician, if they do let me go back to work, all my band pages, the bands, for my personal bands and the artists that I manage, they're all there, and that's where the people are. That's where the crowd is. That's where you advertise your stuff now, especially for the age group of the people that I reach. And so that's the town square right now. And obviously our founders could not have seen that Twitter and Facebook would have become the town square, but it is the town square right now. And I don't want to use that argument that the founders couldn't foresee that, because then they'll come right back around and use that argument on us on what? Guns. They'll use the same argument with us on that. So it's not an argument that we want to, willy-nilly throw out there and not think it through, because we know what can be used against us. But I think that we're looking at a situation right now, because we know beyond any shadow of doubt that CNN, NPR, New York Times is not covering these legislative hearings on the election fraud. And those of us that are willing to sit down and watch them, we're like, oh my God, you're kidding me. I mean, just like this truck driver, from New York, postal worker, apolitical as he can be, and he's ordered to, travel to Philadelphia with hundreds of thousands of ballots in the back of his truck. Not empty ballots, filled out ballots to be counted in Philadelphia from New York. And did anybody hear his testimony? I mean, he's just a simple guy. You hear it? He's just a simple guy. I'm just driving my truck going, why am I carrying ballots from Albany, New York to wherever it was, to Philadelphia? What's in the back of my truck? What's the purpose of this? It doesn't take a whole lot of common sense to know that Pennsylvania ballots probably don't originate there. Yeah. So, the bottom line is, for me to being out here, is I am looking for a way to build a community and to build contacts in an old school analog way. Because I don't know when the kill switch is going to be hit on Parler, when the kill switch is going to be hit on my YouTube account. We can move to Rumble from YouTube, but somebody has the kill switch there. And we're going to have to find a way to communicate with one another in such a manner that we need to go back old school, There's some people in this room right here at this table that I've known since we were old school, since before any of this existed. And we did okay staying in touch with one another and supporting each other's lives and being there for one another. And we're going to have to figure out how to do that again. So that's pretty much the purpose and the reason for me going out there, is to encourage all of us to begin rebuilding those networks in a way. Get everybody's phone number, although those are mostly all digital now too. Get their home address. You need to show up someday for a sandwich or a box of ammo. we're going to need to know where they live. And that's what we have to do right now, is not be reliant upon this technology that we're seeing taken. Technology is not going away, but the positive aspects of it are being taken away from us. Not to mention lists that we're already on.
Spent
Can you imagine
35
having
years.
lists? What's that?
So I've spent 35 years plugging people into the internet. I feel like I need to go around and unplug everybody now. It's all just being used against us.
Yeah, we're headed in that direction. So let's, and we'll save the big question, because I don't mean to be a doom and gloomer, but at some point in the Q&A, somebody will usually come up and finally hit my kill switch, which is, would you tell us something positive tonight? And then I'm going to give you the positive. So whenever you hit the kill switch on me, and you say, let's walk away from tonight with something positive to lean on, and I'll tell you what that is. Where's that other mic? Have you got it? Why don't we
Check.
let's just jump into the Q&A here until they throw us out, and we get tired of this, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Just hand it to whoever has it.
Anybody have a question?
I got one question just about what you said in that, about the Arizona deal. I never even heard anything about this guy.
Yeah, go ahead and turn that so we can hear us quick on the.
I was just commenting, I hadn't heard anything about that statistician in Arizona locating all those votes.
Right.
But I never even, I try to watch regular news and then, PBS is about the only thing I watch.
And that's why you haven't heard anything about it. Because PBS, NPR, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC are not going. This is not even an agenda thing. We're not even having to look for a conspiracy against a particular right wing or type of voice. They're not saying anything. It just doesn't happen. There's been no coverage of these legislative sessions in mainstream media.
What do you have to back it up, is my question.
Well, with, obviously all that data is available if you petition the data. So he was able to pull out all that data and bring it out. There's certainly, I don't think we've had to get to the Freedom of Information Act yet.
Did he give it to legislative people? Did he give it,
Testimony under oath in front of the legislature, the Arizona legislature. Yeah, under oath testimony. Yeah.
The Arizona legislature just an hour or so ago voted, or they're in session trying to vote to decertify the entire election.
They are.
That just came out less than an hour.
Now see, if that happens, the MSN can't hide that.
Right.
They will not be able to hide that.
Steve brought up a great point. He talked about the cartel that we're dealing with here. And what he's saying is, it's worse than a regular cartel. The regular cartel has power, but other people try to compete against it to overcome it. And what's happening here is, this is a totalitarian cartel, where, like you mentioned, they're not out there really pushing messages to a large degree. They're just completely silencing everything and everybody to where it doesn't fit. And that's even more dangerous than a regular cartel. Part of the reason I came here tonight, Steve sent me an invite out, I guess about 3 weeks or a month ago. And I saw it, and so I said, and then Lyle, and I have a mutual friend, and Lyle's friend called me and said, Pat, Lyle's going to be there tonight, it's a libertarian meeting, and consider going. And I said, yeah, I would be there. And I said, I really want to go with that. And I wasn't sure exactly what you were talking about here. One thing I do want to say, so people understand, this cartel that Steve mentioned is America-wide. I mean, we all know since March 16th, businesses all over the world have been shut down. Okay, Steve's a musician. I've put more local music in the city in the last 19 years than anybody or almost anybody. Not that that means anything, but I can tell you that no musicians have played in this region unless they've been outside in open air.
We have done some illegal shows.
Because of the COVID.
You say that,
Well, yeah, what I mean is, none of them are supposed to be allowed to play. Okay, the point is, solos and duos can still play. And I gotta be careful how I say this, and I don't think I've got video rolling, but we have a Democrat governor, right now who has done everything he could possibly do to hurt business in Louisiana. And look, I'll tell you to do it myself, but I'm here, I'm not taking sides either, looking at this process. And we have a Democrat governor who should be doing things to help this entire state, but he's more worried about his own political career down the line. See, he's still got 3 years left as the governor, and nobody can touch him. Okay? And I want to make a statement that for people to think about. When he was elected governor, he was 60,000 votes behind going into the runoff a year ago in November, 13 months ago. And then 30 days later, he wins by 40,000 votes. Okay? Now, they went deep into New Orleans, deep into Shreveport, deep into Baton Rouge, and they found those votes. And there were a lot of people in politics that were trying to figure out how they found those votes. And maybe they figured out a way to do it a year before the presidential election.
I'll tell you, and this was a thought, and of course, if you're following my page right now, there's about less than a 1% chance that you'll even see us come up on your feed. You have to actively type it in, pull it up, and go. It's just the reality of the way it is right now. But a couple of days ago, I just wrote a really short thing, and it was just a question. Remember I said I'm being very careful on Facebook right now, so I didn't say this, I just asked the question. And my question was this. We know that there's an MSM ban on a particular narrative right now. You cannot find it. You cannot see the contested election hearings on CNN, MSNBC at all. Can't see it.
Or can you Google it?
It's completely, it's just cut off as though it doesn't happen. So we know that's going on. We also know, because believe it or not, the New York Times reported it, that Facebook instituted a kill switch in the event of a contested election. It's exactly what it says. So we know that they've cut those voices off from us talking about it. This is where it gets really insidious. So what they leave for us then, is what I was talking about earlier, is the more analog approach of being able to have one-on-one conversations around the water cooler. Oh wait, that's been cut off. Everybody's working remotely right now. At church, oh, crap, you can't do that anymore. You go to strip club and go to casino, but you can't go to church.
But we used to talk in bars too.
And that's where I was headed, at the local tavern, corner pub. That's where we used to have our best conversations about politics of the day. And we didn't hate each other when it was over, you know? And suddenly, and more insidiously, I think, not only are we not able to meet with our coworkers around the water cooler, our friends in the corner tavern, are people that we're maybe the closest to and have been in our lives at the church that we grew up in. But we also are now being told that we can't have our extended family. Our weird Uncle Harry who votes the way we don't like him to vote. He can't even come over for Thanksgiving. It cuts off.
Yeah.
It's amazing this time that we're in. I never dreamed. And people used to ask me all the time, why do you write this stuff that you write? Why do you? And my answer was very simple. It was always consistent. I do this for my kids, for their world, that I'm leaving them. That was it. No more complicated than that. I didn't dream that in my lifetime I'd be doing it for myself. And that's what we've come to. That's where we're at.
This is how ludicrous it is. Pastors, ministers, 2 or 3 weeks ago, because state government said they couldn't open their churches, but gentlemen's clubs, strip clubs were open, so the pastors and ministers got a little unique and decided that they would take their tie off and say they were strippers so that they could preach.
See, I told you, man. You're missing out, man.
And so, I I'm thrilled that Steve's here, and he used a word that I came to know 18 years and 8 months ago. And so I want everybody to understand something. We live in a very great city, a good city, region, but there is a cartel that's operated here for 60 plus years.
Oh, in Shreveport? No, yeah.
And for 60 plus years. And the reason that you can't drive on I-49 next to downtown with access roads on it, with major companies in offices there from 30 or 40 years ago, is because 7 very powerful families have blocked it 4 different times.
That's right.
And the reason that we've been in the bottom 4 in economic development for years and years and years and years in America is because of that. And we've worked for 18 years and 8 months to push that forward. And our mayor, 3 years and 4 months ago at the time, Ollie Tyler in an LCOG meeting got a 9-0 unanimous vote for that project to move forward for the benefit of all citizens here. And yet our governor still hasn't moved it forward, even though we're about to get a huge national infrastructure bill.
Any